Welcome to NFL Daily, where it's officially mock season. I'm Gregg Rosenthal here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio, joined by my friend Nate Tice of Football 301 at Yahoo Sports and their big board over there and the mock drafts over there. And we got you on the hoof doing a mock draft today. Welcome, Nate.
Oh, no, I love it. They're great exercises. They really are. It's nice practice for the draft because then you start realizing why things break a certain way. So, yeah, as the mock turtlenecks go away, the mock drafts come out. That's kind of just what's going on.
There you go. It's the first mock draft in NFL Daily history. It might be the last one of this draft season. I don't know if we'll do another before
smashing the bottle on it.
Maybe the last week, a couple days before the draft, we'll drop one more. But the process of going through it was interesting. Like, I don't have to know 100 plus players like you do. You're in draft season, so I kind of feel for you. It's another time, it's a crazy time of year for you.
Yeah, I relate. I don't get as fully deep as your guy DJ and probably and Dane Brugler, but I'm probably like a half step below that. But I'm getting up on that kind of Tom Hanks and Castaway look. Like, that's where I'm getting there. But that's how you know it's April. That's how you really know it's draft season.
You wear it well. So as a guest, we're going to go back and forth. It's natural on you, for a real football guy. By the way, you had I'll mention it when we talk offensive linemen, but love that episode you did with your dad, Mike Tice. Yeah. That was especially cool. But we're going to keep it simple. We're going to go back and forth. I've given you the number one overall pick, which means you have all the odd numbers. There's no trades involved. We're not doing anything like that. That just seems silly. Let's just start with the number one overall pick. You have the Titans, and how I viewed it, and I know this is a little late to tell you this, was just like what you think they should do. I don't have information on what they're gonna do. Not really. Yeah. There's a couple little things floating out there, but I know more like if Nate Tice was in the front office like he was back in the day. What would you want to do? So you have the Titans. You're up first.
Just 5 tiers higher than what I was. All right. So, but then we go, no, I like doing mocks that way anyways, because I also like thinking of the exercise of like where teams are at and kind of just get into their mindset. Yes. Like, kind of also the most fun thing about analyzing sports, just, I told you so, you kind of get into that territory. It's like I used to gamble, I can't now because I'm a fellow employee with the NFL Network. But it's just, wow. But it's not about like the money. It was just about being right. And I think that's just what a lot of this stuff comes
but
from.
The flip side of that is you just hate being so wrong. Like, I couldn't accept when I was wrong when I used to bet before I came here that it would just bother you. And you understood the math of it all, that being right 6 out of 10 times is great, but it still pained you when you really thought you were going to get one and you didn't. So
especially when you think you really got a solid one. Yeah, no, it's been brutal for so that's the irony, is I live in Vegas and don't gamble. But it's just it's as I've learned, though, is when you're sports media, it's okay to be wrong sometimes. But anyways, long story short, number one pick, Titans, going with Cam Ward, quarterback. I like the player a lot. I have really started, just to start off, and I've kind of used this line a few times, is this draft is really starting to feel like the 2019 draft where Kyler went first, where it's like, yeah, this guy's the 1-1 guy. Like, yeah, when it's all said and done, like, yeah, he's flawed, but I really like him. And he's a good player and a good prospect. And I really like Ward. But then also other quarterbacks might be getting bumped up that we look back at and squint our eyes.
Right. It'll be interesting to see where or if they go in this mock, since it's whatever we want to do. I love that. We talked about Cam Ward at length earlier in the week with John Ledyard. And you're right. The longer the process went, the more I was flummoxed why he wasn't talked about like a great quarterback prospect in the first place, especially for a team like the Titans that needs one desperately. And there's such a big fall off from him down that it just seems obvious, even if there weren't Steve McNair comps, and there kind of are. I mean,
right. I was trying to avoid it, but that's
kind of are.
There's a lot there.
I see Favre too. I see Favre too. Like, I mean,
kind of the runaround stuff. Yeah.
Just the way,
sidearm throw,
just better, like scrambler than he is runner, or just like better NFL athlete than he is just pure athlete. And that to me is Favre and the taking the chances. And
I was like saying, like, trait wise, he like wins with balance and strength as opposed to speed, like which is like actually matters in the NFL because you can't run away from a lot of people in the NFL, you know. So it's but and then also throwing, he looks to throw rather than run, which I think is, you know, creates a longer career and a more productive career. I like Ward a lot. I wrote him up and just like have really, as I studied him more, I was like, man, I kind of underrated you. Like even like his creativity and stuff. His creativity and stuff is really, really fun to watch. Like not just the outside the pocket, but inside the pocket too. Like it's just, you know, changing arm angles and stuff is just really exceptional.
That's the number one thing for me too. Is like, okay, maybe Kyler is a good comp in terms of where does this guy's career go? Like, he's adding a ton of value for me. That's what I care about, is like, am I going to enjoy watching him every Sunday? And I feel it is a big fat yes on Cam Ward, and who I'm going to take number 2 overall for the Cleveland Browns. This was a difficult one. I didn't consider quarterback, but I'm going to take Travis Hunter. Ultimately, I just feel like if you're making the choice and it's these drafts where there's special players that everyone recognizes, like Jamar Chase, and then suddenly, like, you know, he falls down just a couple picks for whatever reason, or even special guys at a certain position, like Kyle Hamilton falls down in certain ways at certain positions, like for whatever reason. It's like Travis Hunter to me is just the guy that's just the most special player easily in this draft, for obvious reasons that we've talked about and that you've talked about. And so I'm just going to take him because I don't want to pass on the special player. And I know they have good cornerbacks there. It's like, hey, I think they're going to need a cornerback at some point. They're not that good there. And he could absolutely play a lot of wide receiver there. They absolutely need. I don't even care. I'm not answering that question for them. I just want it all. I want Travis Hunter. He's my pick.
He's just a special type of player, and just get him on your roster and just like, okay, fun. And we just like, that's all we're doing right now. I think they shouldn't chase quarterback here at all, considering who's out there and stuff. So like it's Hunter to me or Abdul Carter.
Right. It was like, just making the choice, and I didn't feel like I could do a wrong one. But it's like, I've seen a little bit. It's like, well, they have Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson. Man, if you're not taking Travis Hunter because you have Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson and Denzel Ward in like the 8th year of his career, what are you even talking about? So I'm taking Travis Hunter. I just like him a little more just because he could just be just next level special, something we've never seen before as a player. And so I want to take that. So you're up with the Giants next.
I like that. Oh God. Man, this is actually.
I mean, this can't be a surprise if you're already saying, "Oh God," at number 2, at number 3. You know, there's only so many routes that
I know, but I think it's because I've gotten lazy, and not lazy, but I think the last few I've gotten to be able to kind of like rote memorization, where a lot of people go Browns, Abdul Carter, and then Giants go Travis Hunter, and it's just like, all right, what's number 4? Patriots. Ooh, this is a fun one,
right?
I think I just, even with, you know, Thibodeau there. You know, they splash big money on Brian Burns. I think they just still go Abdul Carter. And I think they figure out the quarterback stuff later, especially with Travis Hunter no longer there. They did, you know, sign a Debo. And, you know, that's like interesting. Deonte Banks had a down year last year. Maybe he steps back. Like Hunter would have been a lot of fun here. But I'm going to go Abdul Carter, who I think is a very good prospect. Do not agree with the G word. Usually ever, but with Carter, I think is a very good one. Needs to add some strength. I compared him to KGB, former Packers edge.
Wow.
If you remember him? Yeah.
Of course.
You know, kind of, very, you know, bendy, fast, not that great against the run, you know, and could get overwhelmed a little bit by more stronger tackles, which is why I don't consider him like that elite prospect like I do Travis Hunter at corner and a little bit at receiver. But I think Abdul Carter is a very good prospect, and just get him on this roster. I don't know. I think I'm still optimistic on the Giants defense, especially with the additions they had this offseason. So get more talent there.
I can't say I was like grinding KGB tape back in the day in 2000. I was in college at the time. Actually, probably the years I was least connected to the NFL, just because social life, you know,
was right. My introduction was during that time.
But you never would have been able to tell me that, 20 plus years later, he would be known better as Akbar's brother. So that's KGB now. I like that pick too. You just got to take the best player quickly.
That's it.
Do you like him better than Aiden Hutchinson coming out of college? Abdul Carter.
Yeah, I do. But I
Okay.
like Hutchinson. I thought he got kind of knocked. There's actually a couple guys that compare, like even Michael Williams with Trayvon Walker. Like I like Williams better than Walker, and Walker went number one overall.
Right.
So, but Walker tested like a top 99.9 percentile athlete. Michael's more of a very good one, but that's another discussion once we talk about Michael, I guess.
All right. I know you'll probably be taking him from the sound of it
Yeah.
than me. I'm going to take Jalen Walker, number 4 overall. This is the scenario I would want least for the Patriots at number 4 overall. Will Campbell's pretty tempting that you would just give it a shot and you would have a really good guard if it doesn't work out at left tackle. And yet, I guess when I'm this high in the draft, I do want to take a swing. I do think of the defensive players other than Carter and maybe one other guy we'll talk about, but just to be a real difference maker for a team that is going to have a defensive vision, even though you can say that there's not as big a need because they've spent so much on defense. Well, there's still a huge need. Like, who are their great edge players? They have a need for everything. And I do think in a flexible defense, you just take the guy that you think. I think his floor is maybe higher than people giving credit for as just a good edge rusher type of guy, and that you want to take a guy with a high ceiling if you're picking 4th overall. So in this scenario where you can't trade down or anything, I like Jalen Walker 4th for the Patriots from Georgia.
Look at receiver at all? You get tempted there?
No, because I don't think there's a receiver I like enough to take at 4th overall.
I love McMillan. I know your coworker doesn't, but I do.
He doesn't. DJ does not love. We had Maurice Jones-Drew on our podcast, 40s and Free Agents, with Daniel Jeremiah last week, and he has McMillan going 5th to the Jaguars, which is interesting for a few reasons. Number one being that he knows what that building is talking about. So the fact that he had Tet McMillan going to the Jaguars is specifically interesting for MJD. But no, I don't think he's in that caliber of receiver. But this is why I don't like the Patriots being at 4. It's why I don't like, that them losing that first overall pick by beating the.
Are you going to blame Joe Milton right now?
Yeah, I was going to blame Joe Milton.
Kick him on the way out.
I mean, they could have their pick of the litter. They could be trading down and taking Travis Hunter.
Especially with how Ward's getting looked at right now. It's cool how everyone kind of came to the same conclusion with Ward. It was independently and then together, the consensus is all gone like, hey, this guy's pretty damn good.
Right.
Like, what are we doing here? Shoot, that would have been nice for the Patriots.
Right, and even if that hadn't worked out,
the drum, isn't he just like Steve McNair, guys? Isn't he awesome?
Right, because if you're including Ward in it, you could say the class might be 3 players of truly premier, like would go top 5 almost any, every year type of players, and that's Hunter, Carter, and maybe not even Ward, but Ward is going to go because he's the quarterback. But so that's why 4th is an annoying spot. But Jalen Walker, I'm feeling okay with that. I'm feeling okay.
No, it's interesting. I like Walker a lot. One of my favorite player comparisons I've come up with is Walker and Clay Matthews.
Okay.
From the Packers.
You would take that. You would absolutely take that. That's for sure.
Absolutely. But kind of like he was kind of a tweener coming out of college, a late bloomer too. Walker was more hyped. But just like that kind of tweener, but I think it's just going to be a really good pass rusher at the very least. And then especially how defenses are now where they drop so many guys from the line of scrimmage, like, okay, yeah, he's not a perfect inside linebacker type, but then use him on the edge and he can drop. Right. Great. Rush the passer and drop. That's exactly what he's good at. Let's do it. So I love Walker. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. I just haven't pictured him with the Patriots.
Yeah, so you also gave me an interesting, which is not a great sign. But yeah, we're trying to be interesting on this mock. You got the Jags. You're number 5 overall. God,
now I want to do McMillan because that would be fun.
You could. If there was a wide receiver that I thought was worth it for the Patriots at 4, it just feels like it's a stretch. It feels like
I have a couple leans here. Like Will Campbell and Mason Graham are kind of what I'm coming down to here. The McMillan one, there is one I've thrown out there in the past, but that was just more for fun. But, kind of want that Ralph Sampson, Hakeem Olajuwon going on in Jacksonville with get the Brian Thomas Jr. and McMillan. Oh my goodness, that would be a lot of fun. And
you got Godwin and Evans right there for you as a comparison with Liam Cohen. But
so the other comparison I've gone with Liam Cohen is last year they drafted Graham Barton, one of my favorite players in the draft last year, plopped him in at center, and he was a huge booster for the whole Bucs O line. And then the Jags go and sign Robert Hainsey who Barton beat out at center. And so one of my, paths I've gone on is they draft Will Campbell to then play center, but this is way high to play center, to draft a guy at center, even though I think he has more versatility than that. I think he can play tackle, but the Jags already have tackles. So are you drafting a guard here at 5? That's a little rich for me. So that's why I'm going to go with Mason Graham.
Okay.
Defensive tackle, just create a really fun defensive line. There's other players on the edge that maybe they look at, but and maybe even they go with the McMillan path. But right, let's go defensive tackle. Pop him in with Walker. Pop him in with the artist formerly known as Josh Allen, and just have a really good, talented defensive line that can get after the passer and just build through the trenches. And I think also the new GM, who you've discussed as well, has no issues with taking maybe imperfect prospects, because Grams has a little shorter arms, but just watch his tape, especially his 2023 tape, and it's just very explosive and disruptive as well.
Right. Maybe the 24 tape, he was playing through injuries. He does have some detractors out there. I want to have Ollie Connolly on, who does a great job on his podcast called The Read Option. I mean, he was very low on Graham, just thinking he's on the ground too much, thinking that you can't win the way he won in college at the pro level, that it's going to be really hard for him to win quickly like he's Aaron Donald or JJ Watt. Like, he's just not going to be able to pull that off. And then what do you have? Maybe a guy who is a downer on running downs that maybe can't hold up. But that's just the other side, and it's good to have differing opinions. That would be fun, though, him in Jacksonville. I like that. All right, I'm going to go 6.
I don't consider him he's not a blue chip prospect to me, but I consider him a good one. So I have some same concern with Ollie. I'm a little higher than him, though.
So I am up with the Raiders, and Ashton Jeanty's been a very popular pick there in terms of what will happen. Now I'm on the board. I'm building the team. Will Campbell is still sitting there. You could start him at guard, actually, right away. And then at some point, Colton Miller's not going to be there forever. You could move him outside. I wrote down Jeanty just assuming that this was going to be the process that happened. And yet, if I'm on the clock and I'm the one building the team, I actually would take Will Campbell here. So that is what I'm going to do. As much as I would love Jeanty there, I just think it makes sense for them. People get way too locked into what the roster is right now. They have a right tackle that they like in Glaze, so that's kind of covered. It's fine. We've seen this happen all the time in NFL history, where a guy starts out at guard and moves to left tackle when the incumbent eventually moves, or goes the other way, gives left tackle a shot and moves inside. In this case, I think he would just start out at guard. And even though it's rich, I guess, for the 6th pick, I don't know. Guards are getting rich, Nate. Guards are getting paid the same as cornerbacks, getting paid way more than off-ball linebackers and safeties and running backs. So guards, if you're kind of like looking at the average value of what's the franchise number, if you just made a guard franchise number, they don't do that now. It actually would be over 20 million. It'd be very high. So if we're valuing the position that much, I'm fine taking him 6th overall and just making the whole group better.
And when you're just talking about long-term stuff and you bump up the left tackle, what I love about Campbell is I could picture him at all 5 spots. And so, like, the term I've kind of come up with him is he's a best 5 enabler. Like, no matter what, you're going to get your best 5 out there because he unlocks that ability. Kind of like Tooney is able to do that in theory. And then you see him at left tackle for extended periods and you're like, I think that I really like Campbell. I'm super high on him. And actually a couple other guys, but I really like him just because of that ability. And I could just picture it and see it. I think he's just such a smart player and such a way better athlete. I mean, he tested like it, but way better athlete than he's still getting credit for. Just a good player.
I'm always wary of saying, like, it's a safe pick when it's an offensive line. People do that all the time. And then it's like Ike Ekwonu and that draft.
Right.
Who did the Giants take there?
Evan Neal.
They're like, well, these are saves, plug and play, 10 years. It's like, no, you can't say that about literally any position except for maybe a couple prospects each year, which are just exceptional. Even those, occasionally, that's not right about. All right, you got the Jets at number 7.
Man, so who is still out there? I'm just trying to look at my blue chippers. Jets are an interesting team. They could do a few things. Like, honestly, I've looked at offensive line here, especially with M'Bu from Mizzou, would be the guy. But I want to get spicy.
Wow!
So I'm gonna have some fun here. I'm gonna go Colston Loveland.
Wow,
Michigan. I just finished writing up a article on Yahoo, and I went into the process. I watch these guys usually during the season, mostly focused on NFL. I watch usually about 2 games during the season, if I'm being honest. Then I start picking up after the season, usually for article purposes, start pulling clips. Wrote about Tyler Warren from Penn State, who was my tight end 1. I'm on my last big board. Loveland right behind him. I watched it, and I think Loveland is clearly above Warren as a tight end prospect after studying 6 games and trying to really look into stats and everything. Loveland is a true upside as a Y tight end, meaning in line. I don't love taking tight ends early, but I think his floor is high for a 21-year-old tight end as a rookie that already shows it. It's not just, ideas. It's not projection. That he can block in line, but also split out and be a true weapon as like I would, maybe not the alpha receiver, pass catcher, but if you have paired with a guy, I don't know, Garrett Wilson, that's a great little pairing and great little synergy that they can work off each other. Can attack all 3 levels. He's a good route runner already. I already mentioned that he's young, got a good frame. He's longer than Warren. And also, I think already a better blocker, even though Warren's been kind of sold as a better blocker. I think Loveland is already at his tier, maybe better, and projects better because he's young and long. So I'm going to go Colston Loveland here. And the Jets have desperately needed some tight end help and better tight end coaching. It's been one of the low-key atrocities in the NFL of the last year or two. Oh, yeah. It's been one of the things I can't. Anytime you watch the Jets, the tight ends is their run game would be absolute. It was like the Chargers the last few years. The tight ends were so bad at blocking in the run game that crippled the run game more than the offensive line did. Yeah, so Colston Loveland.
I like that too. The offensive coordinator Tanner Engstrom coming from Detroit, so he gets his Sam Laporta. They certainly want to use that middle of the field in that type of offense. I keep saying it. I think this Jets team has more than people realize. Not like it's going to go to the playoffs, but especially offensively, they're really just missing one spot on the offensive line, but they got the rest of the draft to do that. And if you're in a spot where you feel pretty good about 4 spots on your offensive line, that's a good place to go from. And they could certainly use a weapon alongside Garrett Wilson. So I really like that pick there. I'm with you. I think Loveland versus Warren, you just can see it easier. Tyler Warren's such a unique prospect that I feel like I'm not smart enough to quite know if that's going to work or not. Whereas Loveland, you just get it. I'm going to make another surprising pick here before we take our first break. The Carolina Panthers, and I was talking about blue chip players potentially in this draft. There's only like a couple, so I'm taking Hunter. I feel like Will Johnson has a chance to be a true blue chip NFL player. So I'm putting him on the Carolina Panthers at number 8 overall. I know he's not the athlete likely. They have their pro day coming up in a couple weeks that some cornerbacks that have gone this high are. But in terms of the profile, in terms of the 2023 tape, and in terms of the upside, they need defensive players. Dave Canales has said it, like, we have to focus on the defense. Yeah. And I think of all the defensive guys out there, he would be the guy that I feel good enough about the floor and that I feel has a real top 10 worthy ceiling. So I am going to go Will Johnson at cornerback to the Panthers.
You could pick any defensive player or like high-end defensive prospect here, and for the Panthers, I go, yeah, totally. Like I get any guy here. So you go linebacker Jahad Campbell, you go edge. I mentioned Michael Williams or Mike Green or something like that, or corner. I'm with you on Will Johnson. He's still a top 10 player for me. Actually,
good.
I have him at 9. I think on my last big board, 9 or 8. And he'll probably hang around there, 7, 8, 9. He's just smart, and has great size for the position. The long speed is the one thing that is his big knock, and his 2024 tape wasn't overwhelming. He battled an injury, and some of that, some people weren't happy that he kind of more or less sat out the season. But I mean, if you watch Michigan's quarterbacks, you'd understand why.
Right.
Right. Oh my God. But I really like him. He was my number 1 player at the midseason point.
This is what I'm talking about. That's why you want that kind of player that would inspire a guy like Nate Tice to have him number 1 overall at some point.
He just knows how to use his body. Like his body positioning is like very good. Like he knows how to play corner, and that's why I like him. Like so drop him next to Horn, and that's like just a dynamic corner pairing. Just a really fun one. So yeah, I like Johnson a lot.
you got Trevin Morg there at safety, but you brought back Mike Jackson at cornerback. I mean, you don't really have a slot player. You need a lot. You need everything just about on that defense. But I would say you really could use a cornerback, and I think he fits. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side with the rest of the picks. Back on NFL Daily. If I was making a ranking of current media people that at some point might get asked to actually join a front office, I'd have to go with DJ number one. Jeremiah's number one. He's in a big spot. I know it's happened in the past. And it's a pipeline. Mayock, to the Raiders. Now that spot's a pipeline. But number two on that list, I think, is Nate Tice. So we are really putting him to the test. Field Yates would be a fun one. But I just feel like they'll look at Nate and they'll say, okay, former quarterback, this guy's really smart. And so we're now putting what it would be like if Nate was running 16 different NFL teams. If you were Mickey Loomis, what a world that would be. Who would you take for the New Orleans Saints?
Carte blanche. Just do whatever I want. Is this because I haven't shaved all week and I'm wearing a floppy hat and you're like, yeah, you look like a scout. Like that's exactly what you're going with. No, I figure myself more of a pro scout anyways. But
okay.
Same.
That's why I do the free agency list. Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah. Safe circles here. I want to go with this guy, but I want to save it. Like with McMillan there. I'm tempted with quarterback there. God, they could do a lot. I've really squeezed Will Johnson here. I know I'm supposed to go quicker, but I'm stalling for time.
Membu is a strong option. I think Saints fans would like Shedeur.
I was looking O-line.
Now, this is one where if it really might divide whether it's you running the team or them running the team, because my personal opinion is they would be thrilled to have the choice of Shedeur or Membu. But I don't think you should do that. You need to do what Nate wants to do. I'm buying you time here. That's what I'm doing.
I'm going to go with Membu because that's where I was kind of leaning anyways. But it's just also the thing. They don't have regime changes. So it's not like Mickey Loom, the new GM, is going like, well, Trevor Penning. It's like, right. No, Mickey Loomis is still there. So, but I'm going to go with Membu just because, I might as well this is what they've done in the past is build through the trenches. I know Sean Payton's not there, but just keep building through the trenches, get more talent up there, put Penning at left guard, I guess. And drop this guy in at right tackle. I really like Membu. He is I'm still trying to decide if he is my O lineman one, but he is either one or two for me. But I really, really like him. Think he can stick out a tackle on either side. He can play left side as well. I haven't really gotten this pairing though in the past, but I think the Saints could do really anything. And I'd just nod my head and go, yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, because he's going earlier in some. I think Saints fans have this one in their head if they don't get Shedeur. I think they would love this outcome. Now, the more typical Mickey Loomis move would be to like pick up fifth-year option for Trevor Penning, or even give him an extension. Just like make it seem like it was a good draft.
5 void years.
Yeah, but Membu would, I think, make a lot of sense. All right, I got the Bears now, and Will Campbell's off the board, and so I'm actually gonna switch places, and now Ashton Jeanty is the Chicago Bear. I just think if the top 2 offensive linemen are off the board, it's maybe a little early for Gray Zabel. Not crazy. I actually was thinking about Loveland here, and you already took him. I think Ashton Jeanty to the Bears would be a great pairing. You support your young quarterback with a strong running game, and we fly. You need weapons however they come, and he would absolutely be a weapon for them.
No, I like it. I think Ben Johnson's not making any mistake of like what he's all about, and especially with the offensive line and no half measures with it. And I think, this is the same team that has Gibbs. He doesn't really like Swift. I'm just reading tea leaves. And also, I think they're for sure taking a running back somewhere. I've been curious which one they actually pull the trigger on because I think there's a lot of fun potential fits there.
Right, Travion Henderson or Amarian Hampton would be interesting fits, whether in the first or second round. Who really knows? But I think if Jeanty was there, I think it makes sense. All right,
just pull the trigger.
You got 49ers, number 11.
Oh, man, I've been usually doing offensive lineman for them. Actually, one I've kind of come around with is maybe they go edge.
Okay.
And they, get a little juice across from Nick Bosa. And I for me, Man, actually, I'm going to go with Michael Williams actually here. This is a little rich, but I'm going to go with him here. And this is more I was going to go Mike Green. Actually, I was setting this all up to say Mike Green from Marshall, but I'm going to go Michael because I just think I think Michael's floor is as a plus run defender, average pass rusher. And I'm saying floor. I think that he's very young. He is going to be a very good run defender, potentially elite type of run defender, with I think a secondary pass rusher, but has potential to tap into more. Like Montez Sweat type of role, in the league, kind of status in the league. I think that's what Michael could achieve, kind of the big chunk of like what his potential could be, or likelihood. But yeah, I go here. And I also think that works really well with Nick Bosa, because of what Bosa brings to the table, and maybe being a little pass rush first and second and third before defending the run. So I think that just could fun little synergy, inject a little real talent into this defensive line room as opposed to a bunch of retreads and day 2 picks.
Yeah, I think it's such a huge need for them. I would say it's their biggest if I had to choose one. I know they have Nick Bosa there, but this is a team that wants to operate a certain way, and I think Robert Saleh's getting there, and he's thinking. He got back, and all I've got is Jordan Elliott at defensive tackle and like Kevin Givens. And it could be a pass rushing defensive tackle, but I don't know if there's anyone to take here. Or Gross Matos as the other edge opposite Bosa. It's like, no, give me a big guy.
You look at the roster and you start going like, huh. Yeah, for me at 49ers, it's automatic trenches. It's defensive line or offensive line. That is like, if they go any other position, I'm going to be like, really? Derek Harmon would be the defensive tackle I would have looked at here for our Oregon, which I have mocked them in the past as selecting here.
See, you have so much experience. You're like, I usually mock them here, but then sometimes I do them here. This is my first mock, so be gentle on me.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys are up next. I do think this is where you take a chance on Tet McMillan, actually.
Yeah.
I
gamed this one up.
There aren't like a perfect wide receiver prospect in this class, I guess, unless you count Travis Hunter and want to see him there. But I think he would be a fine complement, certainly, to CeeDee Lamb, a different skill set, a type of skill set they have liked there, like a much better Michael Gallup, before the surgery. And Dak's gonna make it work. It seems like a pick that they would make. Tyler Warren actually seems like a pick that they would make. I just can imagine that on draft night. To me, Jake Ferguson should not be stopping you from doing it. But I think Tet McMillan's a bigger need, a better fit, and a premium position. So let's go with him to the Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys only go after Big Ten tight ends, so they got two choices there right at the top to pick from. No, I really like this kind of pairing as I've kind of really marinated on it. I also think CeeDee Lamb and Tet McMillan, they need a little bit more juice, but that's why you have Turpin. They keep kind of spread the field. But I think, man, that's perfect synergy because he's, like you just said, he's Gallup. He's a true X that can move around a little bit. That's why I like him a lot. And I always get kind of confused when people mock a receiver to the Cowboys and it's a slot guy. It's like, do you guys know what CeeDee Lamb's good at? Like he's the epitome of a power.
So who would that
guy,
be specifically that you've seen mocked to them that you don't
like? Luther Burden.
Yeah.
Golden makes sense because, or even a Mecca Buka is kind of confusing to me because I envision him as a Z/slot, like a power slot.
Yeah.
And you could do some 2-man game with him and CD. So that one's not crazy, but it's maybe some more J2 guys like a Luther Burden.
True or false? You came up with the phrase power slot.
I maybe popularized it. I definitely think I stole it from a coworker with the Falcons who used it. But I definitely I will say I took it and ran with it because I thought it was just a perfect phrase.
That's solid. That's like an important thing to do as a media member is have little things like that. Like you're giving back to the community. I think I was the first one to do Holden, and now that you can't really claim Holden, but I'm pretty sure like Holden. There was one other one over the years, but Holden, I'm calling is mine. Power slot is yours. Forget that former employee. He doesn't have a microphone. Let's go Miami Dolphins next.
I'm going with, and I don't even have to look because I know this roster so well now because I'm always just like, this is what you guys are. Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia, who's kind of dropped a little bit, but I think this is the start of his range, really. Went into the season as a top 10 player for me, and I agree with some of the droppage, but not maybe the full droppage. He's one of those guys that his low lights make him look worse than his actual play. Like he's a guy that gets dunked on as a tackler. Like he's a really good defender that gets dunked on in basketball. So you're like, oh man, this guy keeps getting dunked on. But when you watch him, he's actually a really good defender. Malachi Starks' missed tackles are really bad. But then when you watch him, you're like, oh, he's a good tackler. Oh, he's actually like really good at like body positioning and getting to the right spot and wrapping guys up in space. And he actually has a little more juice to him. He's versatile. He can kind of overrun some things. Versatile player as well. But if you look at the Dolphins, they need guards and they need safeties. That is like what their roster needs. The guard selections here, maybe Kelvin Banks or something like that. Zabel is the guy you mentioned. Maybe a Josh Connerly from Oregon. Like, I don't think Simmons from Ohio State is a guy, because if they add another injured player to their offensive line, I will pull my hair out. So Malachi Starks just fills a need for him, and a very good player, or a good player, I should say. Brings some versatility too, because that Kohu's in his last year, I think. And he's the slot player there. So Starks can play some slot as well.
A great defender that gets dunked on. So he would be the Derek White, I would say, of the NFL potentially. Because Derek White has led the NBA in blocks from among guards for 3 straight years. He's great at it. He has blocked a ton of like centers at the rim, but he always tries. So so if you're always trying, you're getting dunked on sometime, but you still get on the second team All NBA. My son's favorite player got him a jersey when they won the title. I said they had to win the title, so you had that little thing.
Good player.
Great player.
They're a fun player.
They need defensive tackles. I could hear their fans screaming, especially after they didn't get Calais Campbell back. So who knows? Could Kenneth Grant go like that high? I don't think it would be that crazy, but not for the Dolphins in this mock. The Colts are going to I'm going to just do one of the most common picks, I feel like, in mocks going right now, Tyler Warren. We talked about him as a tricky evaluation, but I do think they just need juice. And I do think you have to have a really clear idea of what you're going to do with this player, Tyler Warren, when you get him. And I could be wrong, but I feel like Shane Steichen is a guy I would trust to come up and actually have a vision to make it worth it. Even if he wouldn't fit everywhere, I feel like they could make it work fitting him with the Colts.
Yeah, Warren makes a lot of sense for the Colts. And that's what I kind of conclusion I came to in my article is like, I like Loveland for just about everybody. Yeah. While Warren is more like he has to go to certain spots. He needs either a blocking tight end with him to free him up, a guys, so like certain teams like that made more sense to me, like the Seahawks, maybe even the Chargers. And the Colts made sense to me because, like you just mentioned with Steichen, schematically how he uses his tight ends, he's not asking him to be a kick-ass blocker in line. He's doing a lot of RPOs where they can kind of be freed up and just be truly receivers and everything. So, and Warren can do some dirty work stuff. He's better on the move as a blocker as opposed to inline blocking big D ends. He's like, good linebacker blocker and good safety blocker. So I actually like this fit with the Colts, and there's other receiving options to kind of, so where he doesn't have to be a number 1 or high end number 2 guy right away. Also, my comparison for him is Dallas Clark. So makes even more sense going to the Colts.
Yeah, if you're trying to be a basketball team, a receiver, I mean, you got a couple power forwards there now, Tyler Warren, Michael Pittman. You got some size, you got some juice with Downs.
Here's an AD Mitchell.
It's fun.
So much size.
Yeah, it's a big group. You got the Falcons, another big offensive weapon group, although I don't think you're going to add to that. Well, maybe you will.
Oh, no. Even though they just sends or mentioned today, I think Arthur Blank, that they might add to their offensive line group, which is just they need defensive line bad. maybe even inside linebacker as well. They need a lot, this Falcons team. But is this the, you know what? I'm going to give them Mike Green. I'm going to give them who I think is they would never touch him in real life because character concerns, but and this fantasy booking fan fiction that we're doing in this mock draft, I am having Mike Green go to the Falcons. Since, I don't know, Obama second term, they've needed pass rush help.
Right.
And Mike Green has a lot of high end juice. He also was productive last year at Marshall, 17 and a half sacks, I think, off the top of my head. But also when he played high end competition like Ohio State, he was still playing well and dominating and showing up. Also think, he's maybe a little limited against the run because of his size. Will get overwhelmed by bigger, stronger tackles, but he plays really hard. And he has potential as being disruptive against the run, but maybe not efficient, if that makes sense. Explosive against the run, but not efficient. Like we'll get taken out of plays, can get overwhelmed, but then we'll get a TFL and knife inside, and get a TFL to kind of make up for it. Boom, bust against the run, maybe. But against the pass, I think that at worst, he is a high-end number 2.
Okay.
But I think he potential to be an ace, really. Like he could be a 10-sack guy, like season in and season out, because he has that pass rush potential.
Yeah, I mean they need a high end 2, they need a high end 3, they need a 1, they need it all. It's been a while, and so I actually think they're in a good spot for this edge class, because I feel like they would take the same player at 15 that if they had the 7th pick that they probably would take, but they're in a spot where they probably will have their pick of a few different options, and they're gonna really like the pick that they have, and they'll all start going off the board around now if they haven't already. Cardinals, man, I could see a lot of players fitting with the Cardinals, but I just think Jahad Campbell is such a nice fit in that defense, where you're asking him to do a few different things. Maybe the only off-ball linebacker in this class that is going to be expected to start right away. Kaiser White still hasn't been signed, which hurts my heart. He's just sitting out there in free agency, even though his defensive coordinator named his kid after him. So I don't know, that spot's pretty wide open. And I there's a lot of needs that they have, but they're not like screaming needs. They do need an off-ball linebacker right now. And I just think that's another versatile piece that they would like to add to a defense, and one that I think would know how to use them too.
Yeah, no, I feel like front 7 makes a lot of sense here. They can go anywhere on defense too. And not like the Panther sense. It's like they got a lot of nice solid role player types.
Yeah.
Buda Baker also very good. And they're kind of funky on the front end. So I like a guy like Campbell because Campbell's awesome. Just a really good player.
Right.
I've kind of really had him going to the Bucks a lot, but the same argument here is because he can contribute against the run. He's a good run defender. He's good kind of ascending coverage player, but also he has some pass rush juice. Defense like this that blitzes everybody in every way, shape, or form. Yeah, love it.
Right. And I was saying, like, you can't just be worried about need. Like, they could absolutely take an edge player, even though they have a few more edge players. They could take a number of positions. They could take an offensive lineman, certainly. But, you do look at the roster, and right now their starting off-ball linebackers are Mac Wilson, Akeem Davis-Gaither, Michael Walker. Right. There's 2 spots there. Although, come on, bring Kaiser back. I just feel like I thought he was good last year. All right, a couple more picks, and then we'll take another break. You are up with the Bengals.
This one to me feels like you just look at 4 spots, guards or defensive tackles, and then you kind of go from there. There's some other spots I've kind of looked at for the Bengals. I'm curious what you think, but I'm going to go with Derek Harmon here.
Yeah,
from Oregon. I love Harmon. He's one of my favorite players in this draft. A high upside comparison is Akeem Hicks. But just a guy that contributes against the run, contributes against the pass, is not going to be that, oh my God, this guy is we're threatening 9-10 sacks in a year, but more of that 4 to 6 sack guy. Can play in any type of defense too. Like, he's versatile. He can be a 1-gapper. He can 2-gap. He lined up all across the defensive line for Oregon, which is really cool. He'll play the nose on one snap. He's like a D end on other looks where they're twisting guys. I don't know. There's just a lot to like with Harmon, and then he tested well. So like that just put him over the top for me. Really like this player. I'm closer to Graham than maybe, others do. And I just think that this would be a great get for the Bengals because they need this kind of like player that's going to be a good player for them as opposed to an idea or just another stopgap on the interior.
Akeem Hicks entered the league in 2012. Big dude. Difference maker, rare guy that I would say 3 different organizations were like, oh yeah, he was great for us. The Saints, the Patriots, he was barely with, but he was awesome with the Patriots. And then he had a long run at the end of his career with the Bears. And that is a great comp there. And if you could get 80% of Akeem Hicks, I think you would be happy right there. I have the Seahawks at number 18. This one's tough for me, but the way that the board fell, I think this is the spot for Gray Zabel, the North Dakota State offensive lineman. It's got some versatility in terms of what position he wants to play. They did have a guy who played okay for them at center, Oluwatimi. So I don't know if he's going to be a center here, but he might be following in your guy Graham Barton's footsteps of like, played left tackle at a smaller, but could move inside. But whatever, he just seems like a first round player. And if he wasn't on the board, I probably wouldn't have gone offensive line. I don't know if they'll do it in the first round or not. There's other good players at positions in need. They could do it. But I think for them right now, where they're at, the need meets the talent. I think he's worth taking this high from everything I know, but I'm not the O-lineman expert. Do you think this is too rich? Would your dad think this was too rich for him? 18 overall.
No, I think this is kind of right where his range starts to me. I think he's an 18 to 30 type player, or just say back half of this first round. That's much easier. 16 to 32. Why make it tighter than I have to? I really like Zabel. I was actually surprised my dad liked him as much as he did. He of course considers him an interior offensive lineman, but he goes, of course, it's great when in theory that you can bump him out to tackle in a pinch. It's great to see that he can hold his own. But he actually brought it up to me because I was like, I view him as a center. And he goes, you mentioned that he didn't play center in college. And I was like, no, he played at the other 4 spots though.
Right.
And he said, well, my developmental path for him would be guard first year, center second year. And sounds great for the Seahawks. Okay, he's the left guard or right guard. I mean, shoot, neither one should preclude you from starting him. But I like Oluwatimi. I really do. I think he's solid. I think he's, I'm not saying top 10 center, but like a fine starting center. Like you don't need to get a guy, but then as things get better, you weather the storm. Zabel's guard. Okay, do we bump him to center because we like this other guard better and yada yada yada. But
even right tackle. Could he play right tackle? Because like Charles Cross is at left tackle. I know they're hoping they get a healthier season out of Abe Lucas, but you can't really count. You can't count on that. We'll see. So yeah, it's some flexibility.
They've been a sneaky tight end team for me too. By the way.
that was a name that I wrote down. Tight end potentially. All right, Bucks, and then we'll do the Broncos, and then we'll take our last break.
Well, this is so hard now because I just really have gone Jahad Campbell here so many times that I'm like on autopilot. I'm gonna go. It feels like to me that they could go a defense. They want pass rush. Todd Bowles already mentioned, hey, we need pass rush help without me blitzing at the highest rate on third down that we've ever seen, which is actual fact in the second half of the year. They're willing to take chances on guys too. I'm going to go with Shemar Stewart from Texas A&M.
Okay.
Which even though I'm in charge of this is a little rich for me.
Well, you don't have to take him. You don't have to take him.
I will, because I understand the argument here for where the Bucks are at, what they kind of want to do. They always like kind of doing the Colossus of Rhodes, 1 foot in the present, 1 foot in the future. I think Stewart's that type of player, being young, being a quote unquote developmental player, even though he's played a lot of high end football and he's not very productive. I just think I understand the bet on his traits. Like I totally understand that. And the NFL is a traits league. Like you can't be a dummy to that and not expect some of these kind of what you maybe consider reaches if you watch the film. Stewart's flashes are really cool. I also think he's blind. He overruns a lot of plays, and I'm just like,
that seems bad. That seems bad.
Yeah, I know. But again, with the Bucks, let him run and hit a little bit and get him to think a little bit later. Maybe just that helps him out on more of an aggressive defense where he can just slant and go and do those types of things. So going with the Bucks here, I just wish Campbell was still around because that's a lot more of a fun fit for me. Have you any other thoughts for the Bucks for you? Because they're one of those teams that is always interesting to me.
No, my thought was Ezeraku, but potentially just a different edge option. Yeah. Maybe that's too rich, but just I could see him fitting kind of what they do. Maybe a little more polished opposite Hassan Reddick. But no, they sound like they want to go defense is the feeling that you get. Yeah. But it really could be any position. He read Jamel Dean the Riot Act publicly, and that was a player he's believed to be very close with. So like cornerback could certainly be a pick there. They never get tired of taking cornerbacks, so I could see that as well.
Hey, they're one of the best drafting teams. They're one of my
Jason Light. He gets it done,
dude. He was my GM of the year last year.
Was, an NFL Daily guest was a great guest. Gave me the business. All right, before we go, Broncos, man, if they they probably will have these options too. It really does feel like they have to just draft a weapon, and I don't think there's some defensive player that they just have to take at this point. So it comes down to Amari and Hampton, who I am very high on. as a running back that would be worth going in the first round, or Emeka Egbuka. And I think if it was my team, I would take Egbuka. And I know he's not going to be your future number one, but I think there is part of me that, and I'm the one running the team, that still has that in my head that like, we can make this running game work. This is a deep running back class. I think it's going to hurt. Maybe not Hampton, because I consider him a pretty strong number two, but I think it might hurt like the Ohio State running backs of people just waiting because they just feel like this class is deep and like, we don't need to force it in the second round here. But even I have that thought with Hampton, and I just want to get a wide receiver because I think they really could use one. And I know they're higher on their receivers than other, and so I'm going to take Egbuka.
Yeah, I could totally see why Peyton would like Egbuka too.
Right.
He's like a coach's dream.
Exactly. He loves smart players. He loves versatile players. He loves inside players. It all works. I think
he can be. He is, and he could be the power slot all the way. You know, that type of player. I really like Egbuka. He's my receiver too, and this is exactly where I think his range should be. So they've kind of been for the Broncos. It's been like a Jeanty, maybe a Hampton team, maybe a tight end team for some people. Yeah, that's been popular in some circles as well.
Right, and they have this idea that I know they have Evan Ingram there, but that's a short term. That's a short term thing, and he's calling him like a joker. And I'm like, is Evan Ingram that? I don't know if he's that. Like
his tight end evaluations are always interesting, Peyton, because he likes his. We just mentioned dirty work receivers, and he likes drafting linemen, and then he always goes after these like finessey receiver or tight ends.
And he pairs them with like a blocking only guy, and maybe Egbuka would be like a smaller power slot Marcus Colston.
They kind of inverted a little bit. For
some reason Marcus Colston gets more player comps than just about anyone, and I'm glad for that. Let's take a quick break, and we're gonna roll through the last 12 picks. And I'm not gonna let Nate comment on my picks and vice versa. We're gonna go fast through.
Okay.
Back on NFL Daily. Now I feel like a jerk by setting up this artificial scenario. We can't comment on each other's picks. Maybe we'll just make it quick. I mean, Nate loves this. I don't want to rob him of any quality time with me. And you really do love it. I would say that we were just talking in the break of like some good advice you got when you were coming up about learning the league, that you got to know both sides. You got to know how players actually fit in the league, and you got to know how they fit on current rosters, which I think sometimes is a blind spot for some of the draft nicks out there. But the advice I would give, and I don't need to give it to Nate, is you better love this. You better love this. Like Nate says in the break how much he genuinely likes this exercise because it gets him thinking. It gets it like, and when I talk to some people who want to get in, I was like, you better like really love the football side of it, not the media side of it necessarily. Right. You need to love both ultimately, but you need the football part of it to carry you through the times when it feels like a little bit more of a grind, that you'll always be able to go back to that. And I don't know if anyone loves ball more than Nate. I mean, I'll give it up to you.
Which is the irony, because like even when I was playing, I like the film aspect and like the scheme install more than like working out. Like, I like the mental side of it. I know. There's a lot of that. And a lot of people always come to me and go like, I've realized I'm terrible with this advice. I've tried to get better, when they're like, hey, what's like a key aspect to like getting better? And I'm like, you just got to watch. Like, you just got to build a Rolodex in your mind. They're like, okay, so like, what do you watch? I'm like, everything. Like,
here's the thing. That's not a one size fit all advice, because I know you could just say it for me, but there's so many different roles within the media that some people like watching a ton, it might not really click for them, or it might not be what they need to do. But what I would say is, even if you're not that person, you still got to have the love of the football there. That's sort of what I mean. That even if you're playing a different role, and maybe you're not like it, you still need that love, and it needs to come out in some certain way. And you'd be surprised how many people don't really quite have that. And then those are the people that fall off. Even the ex-players that are in there. I don't need to tell you this, that the ex-players, there's varying degrees of how much they love football. Some of them loved competing, but they really, and some of them are extremely smart, and went really far because they worked hard at football and were smart about football, but they're still not that into it. There's somehow like a dichotomy that it's just like, it's like I wasn't into watching other football. Like, why would I care?
That's it. It was like, hey, we're playing the Dolphins this week. I watched a lot of Dolphins. And I watched who the Dolphins played the last couple of weeks, and then I'll never think about them again.
And these are great players too. Like they can be
Pro Bowl players. I'm not like just saying scrubs.
Right. It doesn't necessarily stop you. It's not a one size fits all. It's a sliding scale of also like, hey, sometimes if you don't have the athleticism, you will need that extra work to catch up, which is how I view myself, at least in terms of the media part of it. So I better be working hard. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make these last 12 picks. We can make comments about each other's. We don't need to just shut our mouths.
But there's red lights on behind us.
But we're going to do it at like a little bit of a faster pace to get out of here. The Pittsburgh Steelers are picking 21st. They are the classic stick and pick team. And right now, I'm like the last person to realize this a couple weeks ago. Everyone is on their original draft pick, which is just amazing, right? Is that true?
Yeah, right. And I think it was the first time ever or something like that.
That's preposterous. I mean, think about the NBA where it's literally the opposite. I don't think anyone
through the notes of like the picks that got traded. They have to come up with
second round in the NBA. I believe no one. This is true. I believe no one took their original second round pick. I believe in the NBA, which is just
I want to look at the wiki page.
Don't look.
See, you like the same stuff, like little tidbits I do. Like I love that kind.
I do that. It seems crazy. It seems absolutely crazy.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
Of course, I'm correct.
Everyone got traded, and I would say each one got traded more than once. Oh no, one only got traded once. But that's what I mean. They have to come up with a different word. Portland Trailblazers selected at pick 34 from Charlotte via New Orleans to Oklahoma City to Denver, traded to New York.
Second round picks in the NBA are crazy. They're like NFL sixth round picks, but if like there were just
half the guys were in the international player pool.
Right. If they were just way less of them and you can do it 7 years out. I often think about how different the NFL would be if you were allowed to trade picks out as far as the NBA. It always seems crazy to me. It was like, well, I don't know if the Lakers, like that's the best asset they have, the 29 first that they've been holding on to. I'm like, 29? Like you're in the NFL, you're 3 regimes away. Like imagine if you would allow teams in the NFL right now to trade to 30 and 31 like the NBA. It would be absolutely insane.
Or that the NBA has rules named after owners trading away their picks too much.
Right.
The Stepien rule.
Right.
Because he traded away the Cavs owner traded away 5 first rounders in a row. So they said, yeah, you can't do that anymore. You can't trade first rounders back to back here.
I can see like the thought bubble of my producer Eric's head, which is, bro, you just came back to break saying you got to keep it quick, 1 minute per, and you talked for 4 minutes about the NBA.
Well, now you guys can't talk about each other's picks anymore. You just use it all up on NBA draft knowledge.
I do love
baseball's
the NBA
televised now.
Yes. I also think it's crazy. I always think about how crazy it would be if we had the NFL draft a week and a half after the Super Bowl, like they do. It's great. That would be crazy.
Or even the NBA is fun because it goes
and they do the draft
and free
first.
agency.
I think that actually makes sense, but the week and a half later, man, that would be crazy as from a media side. Yeah. All right, we're gonna do it. 21st, it's the Steelers. You're up.
I'm going to go Savone Ravel.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. Corner, East Carolina. I think he's very talented. Yes, he's coming off an ACL. Yes, he is from a smaller school, but his tape is very good. Some inconsistencies play the run, but I think he's just the talent of him being a true outside corner type. I've compared him to Antonio Cromartie, former Chargers corner, who also came off an ACL. And my co-host on Football 301, Charles McDonald, compared him to Dominique Rodgers Cromartie, which we did not know about, which I thought was very funny. But that type of corner, long, athletic, more toolsy than polished, but better polished than he shows, especially for a small school guy.
Love the Cromarties. Love that DRC had his moment in the sun. I love that, Antonio, one of the weirdest up and down careers. I like that pick.
Yes.
And yes, everyone check out Charles and Nate. They have great draft coverage all year long on Football 301. Just do that for me. All right, let's go to the Chargers. Jahdae Barron's still there, right?
He is.
Yeah. There's a few different players. Amarian Hampton would make sense there too.
I know.
It would be fun. Those are the two players that I like a lot that I also think fits what they would possibly want. But again, I'm thinking if it was my team, I probably would lean Barron. I think he's a really good player. So he's a rare player that I actually feel like in this class. I think he slipped a little. He's a good value at 22. So it's like at this class is almost like pick your poison between 7 and 30. But I actually think he's a really good player that I could have taken much higher, and I would have felt fine about it personally. So I like him going to the Chargers, and they've shown they can coach up the secondary. Maybe it's not as huge a need for them, but they'll find a spot for him for sure.
That's it. Yeah, find a spot for him on this type of defense. That's more of a, we talked about best 5 enabler offensive line. That's how this group views their DBs, get their best. He's a best 5 enabler for DBs. I view him more as a slot safety than a slot corner. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that type of hybrid. But I'd like this fit here. And I think he could just be a lot of fun, especially with James and just creative defense. This is a perfect type of fit for him. All
right. You're up. You got the Packers.
Woo. I know they like Hairston from Kentucky.
Interesting.
You know what? I'm going to get, they need a bruiser, and I think they know that. I'm going to go Kenneth Grant.
Oh.
Michigan, which is not one I've really done before, a pairing I've done before, but Kenneth Grant, Michigan, Packers, has tools, more than just a run plugger. I know I just said kind of a grunt, burly guy, has the upside of that, but has some twitch to maybe get after the passer. More of is still developing as a player, but he has stretches that are as good as like anybody in this draft. That's why, he has potential to be the best defensive lineman from this draft. It's just more stretches and everything. Has tools. Packers love toolsy guys. Devontae Wyatt's been kind of Kenny Clark's kind of on the backside of his career. So pop this guy in, go next to my boy, Carl Brooks, make some magic there.
Yeah, that was going to be my pick with the next selection, Minnesota. And I did do homework for this. Yeah, I know they've added a couple veteran defensive tackles, but I think having a guy like him long-term would make a lot of sense. I did do a lot of homework, and I wrote down a bunch of options later in the draft because I knew I'd be scrambling, but this is the first time where all the options I wrote down are off the board. And
Barron and Grant are like great picks for the Vikings too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we depleted it for you.
I took it away from myself. I'm not a fan of Emanwari, so I just don't want to make a pick that I don't quite
not here either.
Believe in. I need your help here.
God, they're not going to go.
Is Walter Nolan?
They're not going to go tackle.
I think Walter Nolan can work here from Ole Miss.
Yeah,
a lot of differing opinions about him in the draft. You're lower. I do think they need some like long-term beef up front, and I know they signed Hargrave. But do
you want more of the defensive tackle plugger type, or do you want more of the athletic twitchy type? Because Tyleik Williams from Ohio State's like a sneaky guy here. This is kind of the start of his range too. And he's burly and got more athleticism to him, but his upside is like a true plugger.
Let's do that. I'm changing my pick for the first time because I've also heard people say like, well, Marion Hampton would fit perfectly in that scheme. It's like, yeah, but they just gave good money to Jordan Mason.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's just not. It doesn't make that doesn't make sense.
And Aaron Jones, right? And they play footsie with Ty Chandler all the time.
To me, they were telling us we don't want to have to worry about running back in the draft because we want to go hard at other positions. So I appreciate you helping me out on the Vikings.
KOC is all about he's not going to play a young back. Like I could tell you if he's there for the next 10 years, he's one of those guys that's only going to play vet running backs. Because he has such a short leash. Just reading between the lines when I watch them, he does not want running backs back there that he can't trust, which is kind of funny. Because Aaron Jones was like that, but he's developed into an okay pass protector. But he was one of those guys that was bad in pass protection early in his career, so it's kind of funny.
Every 2 minutes, I suddenly remember, oh, yeah, we were going to speed it up. You have the Texans, and then I restart some other conversation. It's fine. This is the first time we've gone through players like this at every position and thinking about need and thinking about teams specifically. So it has been a really good exercise for me, too. So you're up with the Texans.
Yeah, I'm going to go Josh Connerly here from Oregon, offensive tackle. This is a guy I'm high on, but then my dad comes in and blows my hot take out of the water, and he drops him as offensive lineman 1. But that is with the Texans. I mean, you just look at the roster. I think their mandate is that they want offensive linemen, even if there's other positions like Golden here would make a lot of sense. You know, the receiver from Texas, and I think this is the range for Golden. I'm comfortable with him. That would make a lot of sense because I also like the synergy with him and Nico Collins. But I think the mandate that the Texans have for their entire offseason is offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. Cam Robinson does not preclude you from drafting a tackle. That is a stopgap that gives you options. Get your best 5 out there, get the guys. If the guy Connolly's a developing ascending player, you know, he's not all the way there yet. I understand why my dad's high on him. I'm high on him too. But yeah, that kind of gives you a nice little stopgap if you need it. But Connolly could be that blindside guy.
He does look like an NFL player, and I think the Texans might have lucked out actually being 25th because I don't know if the gap between the top tackles and where they'll be taken, but they might have a choice between him and Josh Simmons from Ohio State, which are both long-term, possible, high upside type of players. So I like that. I got the Rams. I was hoping that Shedeur Sanders would fall all the way down here. I think they would do it. I think they would do it, and I'm gonna do it. Why not?
I love it.
I just
want.
This
is actually a good fit for him.
Yeah, I want to add a little spice. I think with the coaching that he would get, and look, he's had the same sort of coaching his whole career. The best that he looks is when he's on time, on rhythm, when he has answers. This offense will give you the chance. He doesn't have to play right away. I could see it. I think they're definitely in the quarterback market in this class, and so even if I'm not in love with Sanders, now that it's fallen to me, I didn't have to give up anything. This feels like an okay spot for him, and I think it's a good fit for his skill set. So I'm going to go Rams, Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. After Ward, I consider the next group of quarterbacks, which is like 6 of them, all day 2 dart throws. That's how I've considered them. But this is the range of when those day 2 dart throws, like, when people start throwing the darts.
Well, way back in the day, Lamar Jackson was kind of almost a day 2 dart throw. They had to trade back up to, take 32.
There's been a few of them over the years. Teddy Bridgewater was one of those too.
Right, which is crazy because, the Ravens took Hayden Hurst first. I mean, there's a whole alternate universe where they don't get Lamar Jackson because the Patriots take him at 31 or something. There were those rumors that year.
And Tom Brady was QB1 on everybody's boards.
Yeah, and then they took yeah, that's true. But I mean, there was all that week you were hearing that maybe it was total nonsense, but they took Sony Michel and he got his Super Bowl title. The Ravens are up for you.
Yeah, speaking of Lamar Jackson, I'm going to go Donovan Jackson, Ohio State.
Oh,
we're just going with Ohio State guys. Yeah, guy that played guard, bumped out the tackle a little bit after Josh Simmons got hurt, who you just mentioned. Actually had good tape at tackle, surprisingly good tape, but guard is where he plays in the NFL. Has length, athleticism. This is a team that loves their traits at all their positions. So now you get a guy that has those traits, but on top of it has good film. Really good film, I would even say. I love this range for him. I'm one of the higher guys on him, but I'm very comfortable taking him here. They like their size on the offensive line. I think this is a long-term starter for them. Don't want to say what would you say at the beginning? The offensive line safe pick.
Yeah,
not saying safe pick, but I think this guy has potential to be a good starter for a while, and more actually because he's so talented. He
sounds like a Ravens pick, and I was kind of locked in on Tyler Booker. The beefy guard as my Lions pick because he just feels like a Lions pick, and I think they're going to want to start building for the future. That line is getting older, and yet the way the boards fallen to me, I'm thinking about Matthew Golden. They just made a comment how expensive wide receivers are. I don't think they're going to want to sign Jameson Williams to a long-term contract. I think they're going to give him a 5th-year option, so they're going to have to start replenishing that room. And yet, I don't know. What would you take between Booker and Matthew Golden for the Lions? I'm asking you.
Oh, I think
Booker just feels like a Lion, so I'm going to go Booker.
I think they would go Booker.
But it's supposed to be what I'm going to do, but I would too, because in this case, I'm running the Lions, and I want to keep the idea of what the Lions are all about. The same.
They've fallen in love, Lions fans. I just base this all off when I tweet clips about players and I see which fan bases are, they all have the same thing. But a lot of Lions fans are smitten with Mykel Williams, who has been long drafted by this point, but they are very smitten with Mykel Williams based on my Twitter feed.
Yeah, you could definitely see a second edge. I spaced a little bit on one available. It's hard to keep who's available. All right, Commanders, you're up.
Who's available? Because they might need an edge. Is that your guy from Boston College?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with. Donovan Ezuraku. Is that how you say it? I think so. Ezuraku. From Boston College. Going to go that. Commanders need, I think, still defensive help, even though they've done a little bit. Their offseasons was very busy. But they signed Javon Kinlaw, who I've had yet to be high on. But that's a defensive interior guy who they say there might be an elephant edge as well. But I still think that they want juice on the outside. I think this player is competitive, which is what Dan Quinn loves. Has some pass rush chops. He's long. He's not the tallest guy, but he's long. Got some pass rush movement, a little stiffness. But I think I think this is just a guy, no matter what, he's going to be a strong contributor.
I wish I didn't give that away. I gave you that pick there because that would be the perfect pick for the Bills at 30. I'm quite high on Jaden Higgins, and that would be an interesting guy to add to that mix, but it maybe is a little duplicative of Keon Coleman. I don't really know. So I'm going to go Walter Nolan here because I do think they're looking defensive line in general and put him with the Bills. It's the type of guy that they tend to like, whether that's always work for them or not. Like I could see them going Walter Nolan, defensive tackle, Mississippi. We've got 2 picks to go. You got the Chiefs. I got the Eagles. What are the Chiefs going to do?
I just think the timeline that they have, they just signed a guy. The Chiefs are going offensive line here. I almost went tight end here and went Mason Taylor. Almost. I just want to say I almost ended with a little splash, a little smoke bomb at the end. I really like Mason Taylor. But offensive line, I am going to go Josh Simmons over Banks, but I'm going to go just because they want that left tackle. Andy Reid probably dreams about burgers and left tackles. And yes, they signed a guy to maybe be a stopgap there, but I think now they got a little bit of path or a little bit of leeway as Simmons comes back from his knee exploding. But very talented player, true left tackle, true upside of being a very good left tackle, actually, because of his athleticism, movement. Some character stuff has cropped up. But the Chiefs do not care about character. Has anyone been paying attention? So that's why I think they'd be comfortable with this. But yeah, Josh Simmons, Ohio State.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is exactly like that is a Chiefs pick, which is all right. Let's take the talented. Maybe there's some injury concerns. Maybe there's some off-field concerns. Like, give me all your off-field concerns if you're the Chiefs. It's just how it goes.
What they do.
I will go Mason Taylor, 32, because to me, he is the natural Dallas Goedert replacement. And I think Eagles fans as they were getting ready for this draft, was like, ooh, Mason Taylor would be a fun second-round pick to replace Goedert. I don't think he's going to fall that far. I don't have any other options that I particularly like at 32. Maybe I'm just not as studied up as I need to be. And I do like this one because I think they want that sort of player. I think eventually he can develop, like Dallas Goedert, by the way, into a good enough blocker or even a good blocker like Goddard. Goddard didn't come in as that guy. And so that's a position that you're expecting development. You've seen it from Taylor. The floor is high, certainly is going to be able to play and be a receiver. And then, year 3, year 4, year 5, you're hoping you get that nasty out of him that he reminds a lot of people of Goddard. And it really sounds like Goddard might not be on this roster next year, which is surprising to me. He might be part of a draft day trade. So that is how I'm wrapping up our first round. We did it, Nate Tice.
Did we?
Yeah.
Did we?
We nailed it.
We did. Oh, I thought you were saying that we made it under a time allotment.
Oh, no.
Like, no way.
No, we're over that. But we did it.
We overhit.
We finished it. We spent time together.
First.
My brain worked hard. Do I want to do another mock? We'll see. We'll see if we do maybe get the whole gang together and we'll do one in the studio. We would not ask Nate Tice to do any more work during draft season. He's busy. In draft week, he will definitely be extra busy. So I would not ask you.
I'll be in LA for draft week, though.
Oh, you will?
I will be in LA.
Any NFL Network work? Or no?
Well, it's Yahoo, but I'm trying to say hi.
See what's over here. Yeah.
say what's up.
That's interesting that Nate is not allowed to gamble on football anymore because he does Good Morning Football hits
Sports.
like once a week, 3 to so it's like there should be
once a month.
No, it's not. That's not true. But there should be you have to be a full-time employee or you have to put in 40 hours a week or something like that. You're like, but I'm only doing 30 minutes a week, an hour a week or something like that.
No, it's the $1. $1 thinking. You take $1 of our money.
That's fair.
Can't gamble on sports. See, I thought the rules changed. That it was just I couldn't gamble on football.
No,
I knew they became more lenient.
Yeah.
No, it's just sport. It's sports again, which is why all coaches and everybody are addicted to horse racing. Which in the NFL,
which makes no sense. Why is that okay? And the answer is because 100 years ago, the owners owned a bunch of horses, and even the Steelers. Back in the day, like that's how they got that money. Famously,
there's still some.
Yeah, the Rooneys.
There's still some.
The Rooneys.
Yeah, Rooneys.
Big day at the horse track, and then bought the Steelers. Quite an investment.
They Biff Tannened it.
Nate, always appreciate having you on again. Check out Football 301. We will be back on Wednesday morning. Looking forward to this show. We're going to be talking with Nick Shuck. We're going to talk some over-unders are already out. We're going to talk some offensive line. And when I'm going deep, like comparing Mason Taylor to Dallas Goedert, football's back.